Good morning to you and welcome to Penn Vicarage on Ash Wednesday. Lovely to see you and thank you so much for joining us for today. A couple of housekeeping notices. Remind you, it being Ash Wednesday, we have our Holy Communion service this morning at 9:15 in church, led by Alison, and this evening at 7:30 we have a service of Holy Communion as well to mark the beginning of Lent. And I wish you all a Holy Lent, and you're welcome to join. We'd love to see you for worship this evening or this morning, and you'd be very, very welcome. Also to remind you, tomorrow night, Thursday, is the beginning of our online Alpha course. There are still spaces. If anyone would like to join, send us an email or send us a message and we'll give you a Zoom invitation. There's about 10 or 15 people coming, which is really exciting. But if you want to join or know someone would like to join, let me know and we'll send you a Zoom invite. But you've come here to find out about the Bible this morning. And good, I'm glad you have, because that's what I'm here about today too. We're in the Gospel of Matthew. We're just slightly over halfway through. And Jesus has been away to a place called Tyre and Sidon. And yesterday he healed the daughter of a Canaanite woman, a foreign woman. And today he does another miracle. So without further ado, here goes. It's Matthew chapter 15, starting to read at verse 29. He actually does quite a few miracles, but here we go. After Jesus had left that place, he passed along the Sea of Galilee and went up the mountain where he sat down. Great crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the maimed, the blind, the mute, and many others. They put him at his feet and he cured them. So the crowd was amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the maimed whole, the lame walking, and the blind seeing. And they praised the God of Israel. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the crowd, because they've been with me now for 3 days, and I have nothing to eat, and I do not want to send them away hungry, for they might faint on the way. The disciples said to him, Where are we to get enough bread in the desert to feed such a crowd? Jesus asked them, How many loaves have you? They said, 7 and a few fish. Then ordering the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all of them ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. Those who had eaten were 4,000 men, besides women and children. After sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay. I just want to bring out about 4 things from this morning's reading, which I think Matthew really wants us to see. Firstly, Jesus, the things Jesus are doing. There's loads of Old Testament here. I think that's what Matthew wants us to see first. And so you've got Jesus going up a mountain. He's supposed to hear sort of Mount Sinai, 10 Commandments, that sort of stuff. You've got Jesus fulfilling also that prophecy in Isaiah. You hear it in Handel's Messiah. I won't sing it to you because it might start raining, and I want to play golf this morning. The eyes of the blind are opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame leap like a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing for joy. And that's I think it's Isaiah chapter 35. And you hear Jesus doing these miracles of healing people who are lame, people who are blind, people who can't speak, and all this type of stuff. So you're supposed to hear here lots of sort of echoes of Old Testament here. Jesus doing things that were prophesied in the Old Testament, and things like feeding people in the desert, God-like things. It's a recurring theme all the way through Matthew, a bit like a message through a stick of rock, that Jesus is doing things that the Messiah was always going to do, prophesied in the Old Testament, and he's doing the things that God did in the Old Testament too. So through all this reading, as through the whole of the gospel really, but especially in times like this, it's just absolutely rammed full of echoes of Old Testament. Things, Jesus doing things that the Messiah was always going to do, and Jesus doing things that God did in the Old Testament. So you've got to hear firstly loads and loads of Old Testament in this reading this morning. Secondly, I want us to hear, I think Matthew wants us to hear too, about the compassion of Jesus. I mean, Jesus is a busy man, and he's a man on a mission, isn't he? And he's come to save the world. It doesn't get a much bigger mission than that, does it? And he's had some busy times recently, and he's been on his travels and so on. And he's preaching to the crowd, and he's been preaching for 3 days. And I suppose most of us would just want to go home and have a sleep, really. But actually, Jesus here has compassion on the crowd. He doesn't want them to go home. He doesn't want them to faint on the way home. And notice he doesn't just care about their spiritual well-being, he cares about their physical well-being as well. And it's like when we pray for Ukraine or something, we shouldn't just pray for their spirit. We should actually care about them physically as well. We should care about their well-being. And I just want us to see here really the compassion of Jesus, that Jesus cares about his people. That Christianity it's a visceral thing. It's a heart thing as well as a head thing. That God so loved the world that he gave his only son, Jesus Christ. And I mean, I've been to so many sort of gospel rallies and things like that when it's all about how to get to heaven and this type of thing. But it actually starts with God so loved the world. It wasn't just a sort of an act. It was an act of love. And here in the reading this morning, you have Jesus having huge compassion on the crowd. That Jesus really cares. And I think I want us to hear this morning that Jesus cares for you. And Jesus cares for me. And here again, the compassion of Jesus, the compassion of God for his world. And just hear that loud and clear. The third thing, the disciples say to him, "What we've only got, it's on this one, it's 7 loaves and a few fish, and what's we to do all that?" But Jesus asked them first, "What have you got?" So they say to him, "How are we going to feed this and feed this crowd?" And Jesus says to them, "What have you got?" And he takes the small amount that they've got and does incredible things with it. So they can't feed them. Of course they can't. But actually, if they give what they have to Jesus, even though it's a small amount, Jesus can do incredible things with it. And I think sometimes, the mission of the church or something like that, the task can just seem so big, and we can seem so small and insignificant. But actually, if we give what we have and give what we are to Jesus, the sky really isn't the limit. And that if we give what we have and what we are to him, amazing things can happen. And here, with 7 loaves and a few small fish, given to Jesus, Jesus was able to feed a massive crowd. And I suppose what it tells us really is, however small and insignificant we are, if we give what we are and give what we have to Jesus, Jesus can do incredible things. So I would encourage us all today to give what we are and to cast your bread in the waters, you might say, and volunteer for work in the church and give your life to Jesus. And because however small and insignificant you and I may feel, God can do amazing things with us. He did in Jesus, and he does today too. So that's the third thing. I think the fourth question, though, is that you may be thinking to yourself, reading this morning, I think I've heard this before somewhere, and in some ways you have, because this is chapter 15. In only the last chapter, in chapter 14, Jesus feeds 5,000. So in chapter 14, he feeds 5,000. And in chapter 15, he feeds 4,000. And it's a very, very similar miracle. One sits on grass, one doesn't. One's 5,000, one's 4. But you do ask the question, why did he do it again? Was he trying to prove it wasn't an accident first time around? What's the point he was trying to make here? And why do we have to hear about it twice? He's proved he can do it. Why does he have to do it again? Well, I think what Matthew's trying to do here is the first time he did it with the 5,000, the implication is quite strongly that he did it amongst a Jewish crowd, that he did it amongst the disciples, but also amongst a kind of largely Jewish crowd of people. And there, you've got 12 baskets for the 12 tribes, but it's very much a kind of Jewish miracle, you might say. He's done it for the Jews there. But the implication here, instead, that he's done it amongst a Gentile, amongst a non-Jewish audience. The implication is there that for the 5,000, it was amongst, as I say, a Jewish audience. Whereas amongst the 4,000, it's very much thought it was almost certainly more of a Gentile, a non-Jewish audience. And I think what he's saying is gospel is for everybody. It's not just for the Jewish people, it's for everybody. And even Matthew, if you like, of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, Matthew is the most kind of Jewish of the 4 Gospels. Matthew is very keen for us to see that the gospel of Jesus Christ is not just for the Jews, it's for everybody. And notice there were 7 loaves. The word 7 is a number for completeness. 7's a good number in the Bible. 6 is a bad number, but 7's a very good number. And it means a number of completeness. And the 7 loaves, I think it's the 7 number here is quite a bit, with the Gentiles in its completeness, that the gospel is for everybody. Dare I say, for you and for me too. The gospel is not just for the chosen few, it's for everybody. The gospel is there. Jesus is for everybody. not just people who are God's people in the past, but for everybody now. So, what's this reading about this morning? Firstly, very much ramful of Old Testament to prove that Jesus is A, the Messiah, and B, doing things that God does. Those common themes with the gospel there. Secondly, here again, the compassion of Jesus for the crowd then, but also the compassion, the love for Jesus, the visceral love for Jesus for you and I now. Thirdly, that however small and insignificant we may feel, if we give what we have and give what we are to Jesus, Jesus can do amazing things. And fourthly, to hear that the gospel is for everyone, not just for the Jewish people, but for everybody. The gospel is for the whole world, including you and me. Hope that's helpful. God bless you. More tomorrow. Have a lovely